Welcome to my studio. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. I'd like to show you how Great Polar Bear went from a poem that I wrote many years ago to a book. When an editor of mine heard that poem, she said, "Could you turn it into a picture book?" A picture book takes many more words than was in that poem, and I began on my computer to flesh out the story of the life of a polar bear, great polar bear, one male polar bear in the course of a year. I had to do a lot of reading and research to know what that was all about. I even went to the Arctic and the Arctic Circle to find out what polar bears do in the summer, so I could see with my own eyes, smell the smells, feel the air on my face, so that I could write from my heart about this bear. And I wanted a great, huge polar bear at the beginning of this book because I love this picture. A friend of mine took this picture, and I always loved it so much. It was just so magnificent. And that's the kind of bear I wanted to talk about in my book. So I put him on the title page. I thought that would be a good title page. And then I started drawing. Well, because I was so timid and thought I was not very good at drawing, I made big, beautiful landscapes, and I made teeny tiny bears. How could a bear be magnificent if he were no bigger than my fingernail? Well, luckily the publisher had somebody work with me for a while, and she said, "Carolyn, the next sketch dummy you have to make," and I thought, oh no, not another one. But she said, yes, you have to make another one, and this one you have to make your bears bigger. So the next one became the second sketch dummy, and I made him bigger, and I made him bolder. I was getting a little bit braver. And then I made him littler again. And then I made this bear. See, I was still doing little bears. But these got a little bigger. Well, you can imagine what she said next. "Carolyn, you'll need to make another sketch dummy." Oh no, she said, oh yes. And now they have to be big, big bears. She said, "I want you to make a bear that will stretch all the way across 2 pages of the book." So I started making bigger bears. And so this guy took up the whole page. That's supposed to be a little bird, so that was still okay. And when I made it for the book, it was like this. Now the body was here and the head was here. So now it would stretch across all of the page. When it came to doing the cover, which is always very important, I was inspired by a photograph I took when I was in the high Arctic at the Arctic Circle in the summer. We decided I wanted to see what do bears do in the summer, because this is the most dangerous time for a bear. Bears never get to unzip their winter jackets. So they are stuck in their thick fur all summer long. So they go to the Arctic Circle where the ocean is icy cold and there are still ice floes floating around, and they swim. I managed to get a photograph of this bear that was just sliding from an ice floe into the water. It was so beautiful. I'll use that for my cover, I said today. So I'd like to show you how I painted some of the papers that I used in making the illustrations for this book. I use a watercolor called gouache. And before I can paint on the paper, I have to tape it down so that no paint can get underneath the paper, and also for the paper to not curl up. This paper is nice and heavy. It's a heavy, and it's a rough watercolor paper. Listen to my hand. It almost feels like there's sand on the paper. And I love that because it does interesting things to the paint. So I try to use rough watercolor paper. I tape down all 4 sides of the paper with an artist's tape that's easy to pull off and it doesn't damage the paper. I thought I have big pieces taped and little. So we're going to start with one big piece today. Because my book was wide, I used wide paper. I thought we would start tonight with a night sky. I have some blues in my pan right now, and I'm going to put more blues in. So I want a whole swirls of this and that, and I'm careful about how I turn the tops on and take them off. I have pliers here because sometimes these tops are hard to get off, so I use pliers to do that. Okay, what blue is this? This is Prussian blue. This is very dark blue. I love that color. That's one of my favorite colors, actually. Okay, and now we have indigo, a famous color because it came from a plant. And Windsor blue, named after a king. Some of these paints do not come out of clothes. So I wear these old paint shirts, and they never get washed. They just live in the studio, and I wear them for painting. But I don't hesitate to wipe my fingers on my shirt. Okay, now we have some blues here. When you use gouache, you have to put a drop of oxgall water in each one of the paint colors. That's been mixed in with this water, and I put a few drops in with each blob of paint, and it will help the paint stick to the paper. I'll leave that open. Now, brushes. Brushes are key to this whole thing. And because I'm using this very big paper, I'm going to be using these very big brushes. This is my very favorite brush to use. You can see that they're in a jar full of beans. That's a great way to hold your brushes. It lets the bristles just be out in the air. And one thing we're going to do today with our paper, our night sky, we're going to use salt, 2 kinds of salt on it to make a blizzard, make snow. And then I'm going to show you another way to make a blizzard. And so I'm going to open the salt so that we're all set to go here. Okay, this brush, and now I'm going to take some water, just plain tap water, and start mixing my blues. I love this. This is so exciting. Watercolor is not anything that is terribly controllable. That's one of the things I like about it, because you can just, look at that. Look what happened. Oh, isn't that beautiful? So let's get some paint on the paper. I'm going to make this very wet and sloppy because I want to put the salt in. Okay, here we go. I'm getting a lot of paint in my brush because this paper is very wide and big. In this, I'm going to let a lot of the paper show through because that's nice in a night sky too, like sparkly stars. Ooh, look how the colors are changing. I'm going to try and get it way to the edge. I want to use all the paper. More water. We can fade it out sort of into together new colors. Ooh, let's get some of this real dark stuff in the corner of my paint pan. Ooh, a streak of almost black. Isn't that exciting? Ooh, turquoise. Wow. I think I'll make some swirls. Maybe there's some wind in the sky tonight. Oh, that's nice. Okay, now, if I shake some salt on this, it's going to absorb some of the water. And it just looks kind of scratchy now. But when I let this paper dry, and I will let it dry overnight, the salt crystals are going to pull the pigment up. Then I'll brush the salt off, and there will be an amazing amount of paint gone, and there will be little speckles of snow. The next thing I want to show you how to do is I want to make some snow. I'm going to take white paint now and squeeze it into this little pan. Call this my blizzard cup. And now back to the Oxcal water. And now I need a little brush. And so I have to get a brush from back here. And a fresh jar of water to mix the paint. I'm going to put in some drops of water before I touch the brush to the paint. I want this very watery. But it also has to be nice deep white, color saturated white. Now look what I'm going to take. I'm using a plain old toothbrush. And what I'm going to do on our luscious blue, oh my goodness, look at those blues. I'm going to get the toothbrush full of white. I'm going to tap it out, take my thumb, and I'm going to rub it across the brush. And look what we've made. We've made a blizzard. Maybe we want to make it really thick in some places and not so thick in others. And now between the salt and the white paint, we have a beautiful blizzardy night sky. Here, let's make a picture. I'm using some paper that has been painted before. This had salt on it. I just brushed the salt off, and then I'm going to use this as my background for a picture sort of like this. We're going to recreate this bear, but against this blue of a blizzard instead of that gray, stormy sky. What I've drawn on my board, this background that we're going to paste on, is the outline of this is the design limit that I have. Things should not go beyond that. So we're going to just try out this paper. What I call audition papers. I try them out. Now let's try it this way. Which do I like better? I think I like the dark sky up. Then I brought out some papers down here that are all kinds of grays, blacks, etc. And I want to find one that's going to fit into this scene. And I think what I will use is this. We'll make kind of a stormy, snow-covered place for the bear to stand. I think I like it this way. So let's tear a land. Now, if I tear it one way, it makes a little ruffle, but if I tear it this way, it will make a white ruffle. And so I'm going to have this be, I want to make sure that I'm getting a lot of the swirls of snow that are painted on the paper. Need a little more. Let's leave this thing sticking up. Okay, that'll be the nice ground for him to stand on. Now, because this is going to be along the bottom edge, I can cut that instead of tearing it. And that'll make it a little easier to be on the edge of the paper. Ordinarily, I would use my T-square and make sure that I got this exactly right, but we're just playing around now. Okay, now we have the ground. Now let's just tape this paper down. I'd usually tape it like this first, because again, I'm auditioning it. I'm trying it out. And so before I use my paste to make it truly finished picture, I take this artist tape so that it can hold it down. And so we'll do that with this. Make little circles. It doesn't even have to be perfectly straight. It just has to be kept in place so we can plan the rest of the picture. All of this can be pulled apart and we can start over at any time we want. Now, for a bear. I drew the outline of a bear on this piece of paper. So now I'm going to tear this bear out. And the first thing I want to do, see which way I want to go. This bear is fluffy. So I'm going to tear along my pencil line. And he will be a little jagged. Here's one side of him. Now let's go up over his back. And now come down the other side. Okay, now you need some feet. Big bear feet. Now this takes practice, and one foot is much bigger than the other, so we'll take that down a little bit. And now we have a bare body. And this foot needs a little work. I kind of like that. Okay, he's going to be standing right here. Or maybe we'll have him tucked in here. Maybe one foot on the snow. He's climbing, maybe. Now he needs a head. So we're going to tear the head. And as you can see in this picture, this was one part of the head, then the ruff of his fur came underneath. So we'll do the ruff of the fur first because it's bigger. Ooh, that's not going to work. Well, change of plans here. Change of plans is usually what happens when making art. Okay. And now we have a head. And now we need, what do we need? We need some legs. These other legs, his back legs are coming out. So let's make another leg. And that's sort of behind him. So like he's so big and he's just launching out there. Now what's really hard for me to do is it's hard for me to do anything the same twice. So this is one leg. I'm going to have to kind of wing this. Bear ears are so cute. This ear is too little. When I was doing the book, I saved every single shred of paper.